Great day, great morning, great evening, wherever you may be, and welcome to A Winning World. We want to just thank God for another beautiful morning that the good God has given us and graced us with to be here today. We speak peace to the storm of this virus in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, as well as any other storms that may be taking place in your lives today, whether it be just the stresses that have come from this virus or just other things that may have already existed or may have compounded themselves and kind of made themselves more pronounced in your lives in this time. We just speak peace that He has given us the gift and the ability to be able to speak peace to any storms that we may face. We just have to know and take complete control of the authority that has been given. We have to acknowledge it, and I acknowledge it with you today. And we speak peace to every storm that we are facing in this world. Thank you again for joining A Winning World, where we are bringing forth victorious testimonies and just living victorious lives. We want to welcome our guest, Mr. Don. How are you this morning?
Good morning. Haven't
Good.
seen you in quite a while, so it's
It
nice
has.
to see your pretty face.
It's a beautiful, it's a beautiful day, and it's great to see you. And it has been years.
Yes, it has. But I
La-
but I see you online all the time.
Yeah, that's the one thing. Thank God for Facebook.
Yes.
The last time I saw you was at the stadium here in Jacksonville, and you were putting on a program for businesses concerning, your foundation, telling things that had taken place with your son. And it was just an honor to meet you at that time. And you've always just stayed dear to my heart. I pray for you and your family for all that you're doing with the foundation and things in this world. So tell the people who Don is and what you do and where you're living at this time.
Well, I'm living in North Dallas in a community called McKinney. And what got us into our cause, uh, our calling, really, it's very, very, very much a Christian-centered effort that we're doing.
Yes.
Uh, our youngest son, Taylor, was a baseball player in high school, 16 years old, when he began using anabolic steroids. And for most of those that are participating today will recognize anabolic steroids as being a set of drugs that professional athletes have taken for years to help them get bigger and faster and stronger. And what most of them and most of our viewers don't recognize is that these are dangerous and sometimes deadly drugs. And in our case, in Taylor's case, it wound up taking his life.
Mm.
And this was a shock to us, the fact that so many kids were and still are using these drugs, and of course, a shock that it wound up taking Taylor's life. So we've dedicated our lives for the past 15 years to reaching out and talking to people to educate them on the dangers of these drugs. And we're blessed to
Yes.
have the support of the NFL, which is how yours and my path crossed,
Yes.
and Major League Baseball. And we travel all over the country talking to kids primarily, but parents too, about why they should be keeping kids away from these drugs.
Yes. And my hat's off to you because, without someone speaking up for it, and sadly, it often takes something, some type of tragedy to bring us to the place of being able to speak up, and I think God has chosen you because He knew you would be strong enough for this, to be able to save so many other lives. And that's one of the things that, we find ourselves in a storm even now in our world. How is this affecting you all where you are in North Texas?
All of this coronavirus stuff.
Yes, yes.
Oh, what a mess. We're considered part of Dallas.
Mhm.
And so, we've been affected like every other major community in the country. Uh, we're lucky to be in Texas. The weather's warmer, and of course, some of the pundits speculate that the hotter weather and humidity here will help keep the virus down. But we've had I don't know what today's count is, but we've been on lockdown, quarantine, stay at home. And I, like so many people that they're talking about today, have quarantine fever. I'm ready to get out of this mess. This is crazy.
But you're hanging in there. You're still able to do, your foundation things via the internet, or what are you doing with that at this time?
That's a great question. It's impacted us pretty seriously. It's in a certain extent because most of our work is done out in the communities, in the schools, at the athletic venues. But we've had to shift our strategy to the internet. So we're doing a number of programs online. We're talking to kids individually and in groups.
Mhm.
So we're kind of doing okay, but we could be doing a lot better. Where it's really impacted us is in our fundraising ability. We had our annual big fundraising event, a gala, was scheduled for March, and we had to postpone that. And it looks like we may have to postpone it again. Uh, so it's tough, but like everybody else, we're counting on this relief package from the federal government. Hopefully, it will come close to making us whole. From a revenue standpoint, we're all on standby on the phones and email today because this morning is the time the checks are supposed to go out, and we're supposed to be notified of that. So we have literally said our prayers and are hoping that we're part of the funding round this go round. We know we qualify, but there's a limited amount of funds, and
Mhm.
we worked hard to get our applications in, and that's where it's having the biggest impact on us.
Okay. Well, by the end of this, I want you to make sure you send me your link so that for those that want to, be a benefit to you all, we can post that link with the video and they can also make a donation. With that being said, can you share? Uh-oh, I think I moved you out by mistake.
I'm
With
I'm back
that,
here now.
okay. With that being said, can you share how and what you all did to overcome, what had happened to, your precious son, the jewel that had given to you, that now you're the voice for? Because I think in that sharing, people can find a strength and a hope even in the midst of things right now, because people are losing loved ones, people have lost jobs and things of that nature. But how were you able to, find the strength? What did you go through in that season, and how did you come out? How were you an overcomer?
That's a wonderful question.
Mhm.
We turn first to our small group at church. We are Southern Baptists,
Mhm.
and our family gathered around us, gave us strength spiritually and emotionally, and stood with us. And I was standing literally at the funeral home
Mhm.
the night of Taylor's wake, and our Sunday school leader, a fellow named Alan Jordan, and I were talking on the back porch of the funeral home. And I was telling Alan, even before Taylor, we buried him, that I felt a calling, that this was a tragedy that happened to us, but we knew based on you grow up with your kids playing sports or involved in any youth activities, and your circle of friends for somehow winds up being the parents of the other kids on the team or in the activity that your kids are involved in. And we knew based on discussions with our friends and the talks that we'd have while the boys were out playing baseball, that our friends were just as shocked as we were to find out what was going on and that their kids could be at risk. And I was, telling Alan, I just feel we have to speak out. And we
Yes.
prayed about uh, our prayer literally was to be able to reach out to the greater North Texas area, to be able to talk to parents and coaches and teachers about this problem. And, the series of events that followed, the Dallas Morning, 6 weeks after Taylor died, and I still can't believe this happened, but 6 weeks after Taylor died, I did the first program that in our local school, Taylor's school. We called a group of, worked with the school and had a program in the high school auditorium, and there were about 600 people there that night. And unbeknownst to me at the time, the Dallas Morning News covered our story. And in the coming weeks after they published this story, we got a call from the New York Times. I guess they read the newspaper too. And uh, one of their senior sports reporters, a gentleman named Jeray Longman, came down and visited with us, spent 3 days here. I think in hindsight, he wanted to make sure there wasn't a bunch of crazy parents, just complaining about what had gone on in the school, and that there wasn't, from Taylor's perspective, a girlfriend involved or drugs or alcohol. And once he had done his due diligence, the New York Times ran a full page, top of the fold story in the New York Times about the tragedy that had befell us. And that was on a Wednesday. I remember it was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and Friday the phone rang, and it was a gentleman said, introduced himself, and he said, hi, I'm Amiel Weisfogel. I'm a producer with CBS 60 Minutes. I guess you know why I'm calling. So, Shermanda, what had happened for us is this had gone beyond a prayer to reach out to the greater North Texas community. And what we later learned, was what we'd walked into was a nationwide problem. And as you said, the good Lord had called on us to be the spokesman and to step up and signal the warning bell, raise the warning bell about what was going on amongst our youth. And in the meantime, I left my career with Hewlett Packard, and we've dedicated, our family, we've dedicated ourselves full time to wrestling this problem for the past 15 years. It's been quite a journey.
Yes, but you've done it, and you did, come to a place to where his story, his life was for the world.
That is a true statement.
It was for the world. So and it's all in how we look at things, though, we would look through the eyes of in the natural and say that his life was cut short, but it's extending far and beyond. It's something I tell everyone, anything that we do, we want our lives and that work that we've been called to do to live far beyond us, because we're not our own. We're the Father's, and we have to yield ourselves to be, as Mother Teresa said, a pencil in the Master's hand. And none of us know how that's going to play out, or when our physical time will come to an end where we go and join Him. But everything that we do should be linked to that which goes far beyond us, because it's all about the kingdom, and it's all about our daddy. So you all definitely are walking in that, and Taylor life, his name, his everything that he was supposed to do is being done.
Yeah,
It,
and what I've first 100% correct on everything you said, and I would add to it that in hindsight, his ability to make things happen was larger than my wildest dream at the time.
yes.
Uh, I could if you would have told me that we would be working nationally with national sporting leagues. I've had the opportunity to testify before Congress 3 times. We've dealt with news reporters from Europe, from Japan, from Australia. That was not even in the context. Couldn't believe or envision that, and yet so much more has come to pass. You hand your troubles off to the man upstairs, and he can
Yes.
carry it and deal with it in ways we can't even imagine.
Yes. And that's a beautiful thing, when and you don't get it, you don't understand it, and there's tears, there's cries, there's when you're walking through something, you don't understand it quite then. But that's where that peace that passes all understanding comes from, when you're rooted and grounded in Him, irrespective to how bad something may appear and may even be. When you're connected, you know that there's a greater purpose for it. And I think that's the thing that gives you that drive, and you connect with it and you're able to go on. And in this season with the COVID, hearing your story, it is my prayer that people see, our connection definitely is God, through it all. And you have to, come to that place of knowing that greater calling for yourself so you can make it through in, the toughest of times. What would be your encouragement and inspiration to the world um, in this time?
Trust trust the Lord. Put your faith in Him, and recognize that He is in control. This is so much larger than any of us. I mean, we're witnessing the greatest
Yeah.
experts in the world are having more than challenges. I mean, just tremendous. I mean, all the best efforts of man. It can get you started and give you hope, but not. There's only one individual that I know that's got this problem in the palm of his hands, and it's the
Mm.
man upstairs. None
Yes.
of us have it, and as we learned with our problem, give it to him, and he can do more. And he's got a better chance of doing more than any of us that are on the, watching this now, or in our circle of friends, or our circle of politicians that we watch on TV every day. This is a problem that's way above any of us as human beings.
Yes. And I strongly believe that. I think this is definitely a time that God is speaking. He's speaking loudly, but in order to hear him, because it's a still small voice, you know, it still is a loud voice, and you have to get into that quiet, calm place, and a wanting place. We've got to want to know. We've got to want to hear. So how they say he's a gentleman. So we have to welcome him in to our hearts, into our minds, into our space, creating an atmosphere for him to talk to us, and we hear it. He with an ear, let him hear. This is a time that we need to be praying that our ears are open to hear what the Father is saying. And I think it's a beautiful thing. I think there's a shift of healing, if we would embrace it. And I say it just about every time I get on here. You know, this is a time that you can kind of shift everything in your life, in your family, and everything else to go the route that you're supposed to go, the direction that the Father has created for us to go. And everybody's path may be a little bit different, but the one thing that remains the same is the Father, and that connecting point that brings our audiences to that place. For you, it's what, you know, you went through with your son. For someone else, it may be what they went through in their own life in a unique way, or what's happening, individually, but we all link up, and it's all to bring the audience around us that are needing to hear our testimonies. We're overcome by the words of our testimony. And it's important for us to share our testimonies so that we can reach the souls that are needing to be lifted, that are needing to hear and see hope, and grab a hold of it and understand what our hope is. And at the end of the day, it's our Father, it's our Creator, it's who we are. And He is within us, He's not outside of us. And too often, John, we're looking on the outside and trying to connect with something that's always going to be greater out here. But last year, He showed me how, because we see Him like this, we'll never measure up, so you keep making the same mistakes over and over again. But once you see that he lives within you, he's in you, he's created you, he's walking with you, and you are one, you will walk that path in a greater way than you've ever walked before. So it's becoming one with who created you, who knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb, who knew you before creation. Knowing that you're one, we came out of that oneness. So,
That
um,
is so true.
yeah, it's to me, in the midst of it all, I pray, for the miraculous healing, because that's what it's going to take. It's not about the antidote here. He's the antidote. God is our antidote. Jesus is our antidote. you know at the end of the day, for everything. So, but I pray that, as I think, as we align ourselves and link up and come to that place, this thing could just disappear. I don't want to ever see COVID again. You know how we may have the flu consistently, but they have something for the flu. And as you stated, everybody's putting their head together trying to come up with something, and they haven't been able to find anything. And that lets us know that, it's more of a spiritual thing, I believe, um, that we're dealing with. Yes, we're it's just he's talking. We just need to take the time and say, yes, Lord, I'm here, and my ears are open, and I want to know what you want to say to me. What is it that you're speaking to me today?
That's so true. And I've heard a number of uh, pastors comment here in the last week or two that we may be on the, I guess we should pray to be, but we may very well be on the doorstep of a great revival with
Yes.
that, this is an opportunity for him to
Mhm.
get our attention, even if it takes a baseball bat in the form of a COVID virus, to get people's attention, to drop to our knees and come to where we all need to be.
Yes. Yes. And I keep telling people, it's going to be greater on the other side of this COVID. I just see greater. I see that we're moving in a greater place, a place that we've never seen. Maybe we've dreamt of it. I don't know. Maybe we've heard of it from our childhood youth in churches, or, just in the spirit realm. But I see greater. I see that we are in probably one of the best places we'll ever be, because the Lord shut everything down,
Oof,
business, everything, everything
everything.
shut down. So that lets me know that, you know what? It's a time to quieten yourself and not be in the hustle and bustle, because you can't be out there. Everything is still when you go out. You may see a few cars here and there, but there's a stillness. And to me, it's beauty.
It's unbelievable quietness.
Ah, I just want to hear his voice. I just want him to lead me. I want him to guide me. I've been in my place of repentance. I'm like, Lord, whatever is in me that's not like you, remove it, take it out. I yield myself completely for your service. Um, and just getting the word at another level, it's just been beautiful. I see things differently. I hear things differently, and I have peace. But like I said, both of us know that's the peace that passeth all understanding, that only being connected to the Father can give.
That's true.
Yeah. And you and your family have walked this thing out in that place. What are some of the testimonies that you've heard from what you're doing that have come to you?
Well, I guess the biggest testimony are the phone calls or the emails, the correspondence we get from either the young people themselves or from the
Mm,
parents that will let us know that now they finally figured out what's wrong in their family or with their kids or in the circle of friends that their kids have. They couldn't figure out why they were behaving that way or the health problems that their kids have been having. And this was because nobody talks about this problem. It's not covered in health class. The teachers aren't aware of it. and most of the coaches and the people that, even some of the family, not some, most of the family physicians aren't aware of this problem. They don't look for it in their exams. So the kids don't have a place to turn to for advice. And when the parents like us who see a problem, there's no textbook to go to, there's no expert to go to if you don't know what you're looking for. So
Mm.
a lot of the testimonies we get is after we have shared our experience, told our story. We've had people visit our website. The light bulb goes off that they've made a connection. They now understand what's happening, and only then can they be in a position to deal with it, whether that's education or medical treatment or counseling, whatever the answer is in that particular case. And we get those on a pretty regular basis. We get that kind of feedback. We've now, guess we've covered a lot of ground since you and I met several years ago back in Jacksonville, but we've now talked directly to over 2 million people. I'm talking about in an auditorium, in a football stadium, in a baseball stadium, uh, not counting the people that visit our website or that watch our videos or see us on a program like this.
Mhm.
So we're blessed, but we've barely. It's a scary thought, but we've barely scratched the surface on the work that's in front of us.
Wow. Now, have you all, because I was going to ask you about textbooks and things of that nature. Have you all, and I know you said you've connected with Congress and that, in that arena, have they thought to put certain questions in, for medical purposes for our youth, especially teenagers when they go in maybe for their last shots or whatever? Is there something being created to kind of implement in the system for our doctors to take recognition or ask questions, or our teachers, as well as I'm sure at your seminars you have things for the parents, but are there questions of some sort, something being put in place to kind of place it out there where everyone has the same thing and know exactly what to ask, how to ask, and what to look for?
Well, you would think so. I was going to say we were doing so well here with our conversation, and this is kind of where we go to the negative side. I'm very, very disappointed
Mm-hmm.
with our federal leaders in any case, because they smile. We get all kind of sympathy and sympathetic discussions while we're with them, but as a general statement, with a few exceptions, our friends in Washington have done little or nothing to help in this respect. Now that's the bad news. The good news is we're working with several of the medical professions, organizations, and they've a number of them have issued statements of support, like the American Academy of Pediatrics, which is very important, and they're making materials available to their doctors that are in their organizations, nurses organizations that are training, their community on this. So I don't want to come across as nothing is happening, but the most important one, which your mind went to where ours goes. I mean, you would hope that our educators would be taking steps to put this in the curriculum, and that this is something that would be talked about in health class, or that this is something that coaches would have to speak
Yes.
with their kids about. And there are many, many coaches that are talking about this, but not in an organized fashion. It's not because the school system has decided this is important. Sadly, most of the educators we deal with don't want to think that this is a problem in their school. So
Mhm.
if they deny the problem exists,
Yes.
why would you expect them to turn around and do something about it?
Mm.
It's a challenge. But
Okay.
we've got pockets of folks that have reacted and responded and are taking the kind of steps that you just articulated that are in your mind's eye, but sadly, it's the exception and not the rule.
Wow. And that's why we're doing the interviews. That's why I've been called to report on a winning world, report things that, people may not know, may not hear, and the good news. And like you said, with the good, there is bad, but the good overrides the bad in finding that way. And prayerfully, as the testimonies are put out there and these questions are being asked, people are listening. You may not know that they're here, they're listening, but we just pray and continue to do our part to place things before a winning world, because that's what we're living in. A winning world is what it is. I choose to see that irrespective to all the negative things that are always put out. And, that's why I have this platform. I'm like, you know what? There's enough negative stuff out there. We're going to report on the good news.
Yeah.
The happy news, the things that people we don't hear enough of, So my little platform broadcast is strictly for the winning. And at the end of the day, we're believing that those with ears will hear and change will, come. And yes, it is baby steps, but it's steps nevertheless. And I think of just now, it just came to me how he'll take one and send 1,000, two to send, what is it, 3,000, whatever, and three, the 10,000, or however, every step it's going far and beyond, because there's more for us out here.
That's right. And you talk about your little platform. I've watched from watching you online. I've watched you grow. Your platform is a whole lot bigger today than it was when our paths first crossed.
Yes, yes. Well, yeah, it was this particular thing was birthed after that. After I was hit by a vehicle 5 years ago, come May, and from my healing bed, I call it from my healing bed, this was birth. Because instead, I don't know how to give up, Don. For
You
some,
can't give up.
yeah, it's not in my DNA. So, through all the struggles and through all the pains and the tears and, just getting up, pressing and making things happen, even in the midst, when you're going to push yourself to a point to where you're laying back in the bed or whatever. I said, what, I'm still winning. And I still, as long as I have life, I'm winning. And this is my story. And just like you realize that there are more. It was beyond Taylor. This was to go bigger. I said the same thing. I said, you know what? If it's been a struggle within me, but I can see that irrespective to where I am, I'm still winning, and I'm still a winner, that other people need to see, regardless of where they are in this life. As long as you have life, I mean, even if you can't lift an arm, we see people that don't have arms and legs getting out on platforms, doing amazing things, having families. So as long as we have a mind to think and comprehend and be able to share in some way, that we're winning. And there's a plan and there's a purpose that God has for our lives. So I tell people, don't give up, don't give in, just keep going, because it's all I know. It's all I know. It's all I know, and I know that comes, from my Father,
That's
Jehovah.
exactly right. That's
Mhm.
exactly right.
Well, I thank you so much. Thank you so, so much for joining us here on A Winning World. And I want to take time to thank our audience for joining. And before coming on, I was given this to share. And before I move to that, let me see if there's anything else that you would like to share with our audience.
No, we've covered the ground. I just want to thank you for the opportunity. First, it's great to see and visit with you again.
You
And
too.
hopefully, we've touched a heart or two in your audience today. And if any of your listeners want to come to our website, we've got plenty of valuable information. It's all free. We'd love to share with you and answer any questions or concerns. And we hope after you visit our websites, there are concerns raised, because
Yes.
this is a, a scourge on our youth that is going on so much more widely than any of us realize. And we'd love to be a part of help raising awareness and helping you deal with this problem.
Yes. And we will definitely get that information out there because it's definitely needed. I don't know if you listened to, I think it was my friend from Belgium who I interviewed. And I could be mixing it up with another country, but they have a lot of suicides during this time from the youth. So linking them to your information is going to be vital. Though, like I said, every situation is different, still nevertheless something that parents need to glean from and grow from, to make the proper connections where they are to help the children. Our youth need our help. People in this world, adults, I mean, we all need help, and it's okay to say help. And that's what I pray that people realize. Just say help. Parents may see things going on and may not understand it. Don't
That's
close a blind eye. Don't close your eye to it. What you're seeing, if there's something that's clicking in your spirit that's saying this doesn't quite seem right, it's not right.
Yeah, and don't, as we learned the hard way, don't just assume that my child would never do this and just deny it because this can't possibly be happening. My child wouldn't do drugs. My child would not do things that are against the rules. We've trained them better than that.
Yeah.
Well, the reality is there's a lot of peer pressure going on, and their friends are doing it, and in a lot of circles it would be more difficult to believe them not doing some of this stuff than the reality is they are turning to these kind of drugs and this kind of behavior. It's a sad
Yeah.
dose of reality.
Yes. We need to make sure that we're hearing them. And anytime I say that a child is acting out, they're crying out.
That's
When
right.
you see acting out, and it's not just a child. I look at us all as children of God. So, the children are always crying out. And it's for, those of us who have made it through, and that's why he brings us through, to be able to be the strength for so many others that don't understand that at that time. But we're here to be a shoulder for each other, a lifting for each other, just a support. We have to support each other at the end of the day and just ask God to allow us to hear the cries of those that are around us, be it our family, family first, but then your neighbors, those that you're coming in contact with. He'll show you if you ask. He say, we have not because we ask not. So if we ask to, Lord, deal with us first and foremost. You don't want to save the whole world and lose your own soul. And I understand that more so than ever before. I had to stop and evaluate Shermanda and come to that place of, you know, strength within myself and to know what was in me, what my calling and what it is I'm to do with love and joy and loving me, first. And then it began to trickle out, to my household, to those that I meet along the way. And that's what this is all about.
Yes, it is.
We're in this thing together. We see that all the time in the news, but I want people to truly know my heart feels the pains, and I cry sometimes and don't even understand why because I feel so much going on. So I pray for my neighborhood. I pray for my neighbors. I pray for my children. I pray for my family. I pray, for my city, for the nation, for the world on a constant basis. We're in
Need,
this thing together.
yeah, and we need that, Shermanda.
Yeah, we're in this together. So, with that being said, thank you again, Don. I want to close out with what was given to me in the spirit this morning. First, to tell you, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all things shall be added unto us. We have to seek Him first, then everything else is added. Okay. And He gave me the Beatitudes, and that's what I will leave you with today. And the Beatitudes are found over in Matthew 5. And it says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Blessed are we, family. We are blessed. We are favored. We are loved. And I want you to know that a winning world is praying for you and lifting you and knowing that and wanting you to know that it's going to be okay. With hugs, love, and kisses, we leave you and we say goodbye until we meet again. Thank you.